Hi there, and thank you for joining us at the Ontario Cycling Association's Women Cycling Week, taking place July 6th through 12th, 2020. In this video, we'll be discussing how to change a flat. My name is Chantal Thompson. Uh-oh, it looks like you got a flat tire. The first thing you're going to want to do is remove yourself from the road. Step off to the side and ensure you're in a safe location, as you're going to be here for a few minutes while you change your flat. The first step is to remove your wheel. Removing a front tire is significantly easier than removing a rear tire. In order to remove your front tire, first, you must open up your brakes. Then you will undo your quick release. You'll have to probably unscrew the quick release about 5 or 6 times through in order to get your wheel off. Pull down towards the ground and lay your bike chain side up. You now have your wheel in your hands and you're ready to fix your flat. But what if your flat's in your rear wheel? First off, in order to allow ease for getting your wheel on and off, you'll want to put your bike into the smallest or outermost cog. You do so by pressing the lever on your front handlebar and moving the chain all the way down to the smallest cog. Don't forget to open up your brakes, undo the quick release, and once again, you'll probably have to unscrew it about 5 or 6 times. Now comes time to pop your wheel out of the frame. A simple downward thrust motion on the top of your tire should dislodge the wheel. You may want to use your hand to help guide the derailleur off of the chain and lay your bike chain side up. This prevents any unnecessary disturbances to the derailleur that could potentially put it out of alignment. In addition, it also keeps your chain and cogs clean and free of dirt. Now that you have your wheel in your hands, let's talk about what's in your saddlebag to help you today. Tire levers will help you get your tire on and off of the rim. A spare tube, of course, would be used for replacement, and a CO2 canister or hand pump will come in handy for reinflating your tire. Step 1, let's use those tire levers. You're going to wedge the tire lever between the rim and the edge of the tire. Typically, we do this on the opposite side of the wheel from the valve stem. If you're changing a rear flat, you'll want to make sure that you are inserting your tire levers and removing the tire on the opposite side of the cassette. You do this in order to prevent getting any unnecessary chain grease on your hands, arms, and legs while changing your flat. A typical saddlebag will carry 3 tire levers. The first 2 are wedged between the rim and the edge of the tire, essentially popping it out from that lip. The third lever can be used to shuffle along the entire circumference of the rim to bring the rest of the tire out. Your wheel will now look like this. Part of the tire is still on the rim of the wheel, and that's okay to keep it that way. It allows for an easier process of putting the new tube back in. You'll want to remove the affected tube, but before you throw it away, I always like to inspect for where the damage occurred. The reason you do this is sometimes you may have a piece of glass or fragment still lodged within the tire. Simply replacing the tube would cause yet another flat. You can inspect the inner part of your tire by carefully rubbing your fingers throughout the circumference of the inside of the tire. You do this carefully so as not to cut yourself while feeling around for the damage. This step, though some may deem it unnecessary, I personally believe it'll save you the headaches of having yet another flat later on in your ride where you may not have a spare tube any longer. What I do is slightly inflate the affected tube to inspect for where the puncture occurred. You can then line this up with your tire that is still located on the rim to locate the spot where the puncture came through the tire. Inspect that area for any cuts, gashes, abrasions, or foreign objects. If you ran over an object that caused a large gash to your tire, you can still manage to make it home most times by using the outside of a wrapper perhaps to a gel packet, wedging it inside the tire before replacing the new tube and inflating. This acts as a wall to the tube and will get you home. If you're lucky enough not to have damage to your tire, and you've removed any potential foreign objects that could cause a repuncture of your new tube, we'll go ahead and get to work replacing it. I first like to start with my new tube by removing what is known as the dust cap and this washer here. I like to add a little bit of air into the tube to make sure it takes shape once slightly inflated. This also allows you to place the tube back into the tire without any folding. Once you feel the tube is gently laid within the tire with no overlapping or folding, as shown, you're going to want to begin the process of putting that tire back onto the rim. Using your hands, you're going to want to gently rotate that tube back onto the rim. This is before even putting the tire back onto the rim. By first putting the tube onto the rim, you will then ensure when it comes time to put the tire on the rim, you are not pinching the tube. If you were to pinch the tube, this could once again cause a flat upon reinflation. Looks like our tube is in place. Now it's time to put the tire back on the rim. A tip I learned is to ensure that the sticker on the tire is in alignment with the valve stem. This way, if you ever have a flat in the future, and for some reason you've taken your tire off of your rim, you can still identify where the puncture, gash, or flat occurred. Start at the valve stem, and using the same motion with the palm of your hands, you're going to grip the tire and twist inwards to pop that tire back onto the rim. Once you get the first part, you're going to work your way around the circumference of the tire, away from the valve. The reason why we work away from the valve is to prevent any twisting, torsion, or unnecessary folding of the tire near where the valve is. Some tires may experience problems if this overlapping occurs. That is when you would experience a flat without having anything puncture your tire. This process can take a lot of grip strength, especially getting the final bit back over the rim. I strongly recommend against using tire levers to get this final bit of the tire back onto the rim. Using tire levers wedged between the tire and the rim of the bike can sometimes pinch and flat that brand new tube you just put in. If you're having trouble getting that tire over the rim, you can start back up by the valve stem using gravity to force the rest of the tire down the rim to hopefully allow for a bit more give. Great. Looks like you got it. We're going to go ahead and partially inflate that tire. I always like to inspect my installation before fully inflating the tube and tire in order to make sure there are no lumps or bumps. These can be a sign that something has gone wrong. Perhaps the tire is folded over on itself, or something is twisted the wrong way. You definitely do not want to ride your bike if your tire has any lumps in the rotation. Our wheel is spinning nice and smooth, so let's inflate it all the way. You'll want to inflate your tire to the correct tire pressure. If you don't know what that pressure is, check the sidewall of your tire. It will give you the numbers there. You also should regularly be pumping your bike up to this pressure before departing for your ride. Sometimes when changing a flat, your hand pump or CO2 container does not have a pressure gauge on it. You'll want to inflate your tire to a similar pressure, judging by feel with your hand, in order to make it home safe from your ride. As always, upon returning from your ride, do double check your tire pressure by hooking it up to a floor pump. Let's go ahead and put our newly installed tube and cleaned up tire back onto our bike because it's time to roll out again. A front wheel installation is fairly simple, ensuring that the quick release lever is on the opposite side as your chain and gears. Upon putting your wheel back in, you're going to want to tighten the quick release and close the lever. When closing the quick release, you'll want to make sure it is somewhat difficult when applying pressure to your hand. In fact, it should leave a small dent in the palm of your hand when closing. That's how you know your quick release is done up correctly. If you do not experience resistance when closing your quick release, you'll need to tighten it more. The quick release is a very important safety component of your bicycle, and you'll want to make sure these are done up tight and correctly at all times. Please note how my quick release is lined up with my front fork and is not sticking out in any other direction, and is also fully closed flat against the frame. Putting on a rear wheel is a little bit more difficult. You'll have to hold the derailleur with one hand so you can get the chain back into the cog. If you took my advice before and put your bike into the smallest cog, this should be a very easy process. Line up your chain, and once again, with a little bit of help from gravity, you should be able to get your wheel back on your bike. Time to close that quick release. Last but not least, let's not forget to close our brakes once again. Typically, we may have to open our brakes in order to access the wheel and get it out of the frame. I always like to give my wheels one last spin test to ensure that nothing is rubbing and the wheel is on correctly. Just pick up the bike and spin the wheel. You shouldn't hear any rubbing, and the wheel should spin freely. Well, that's about it. Looks like you changed your own tire. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Ontario Cycling Association's Women's Cycling Week. I can't wait to see you out on the road sometime soon. Take care.